Welcome to The Eyes of Indigo with your infinitely curious hosts, Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. Our show is broadcast live at 9:30 p.m. Wednesdays. Socio-spiritual topics are laced with humor as we discuss weird stuff in a rational way. Learn more about us in our first episode, The Prequel. Shows are recorded and available on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, iTunes, and other aggregators. A keyword searchable index is at iriscarter.com/EOI directory. Share ideas and comments in the program chat or by email. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share our show. Let us know you're here by typing your hello in the comments because we are thrilled to welcome you as we begin another adventure right now. And here we are.
Yay!
Yay! It is the end of January. Where did it go?
Where did all of 23 go?
Yeah, I mean, just it's insane.
Out of here. It is insane. It's very insane. But we have another 11 months of this wonderfulness.
What is to come, huh?
Exactly. Every single month has potential for being different. And, since we're on the eve of the last day of the month, that's a liminal space inside of a liminal space. Last day of the month, last hour. Hi, Dale and Jeannie. We're talking about, between the months, between the days, the whole 9 yards, between Wednesday and Thursday. That's the in-between. That's a liminal space, a part of today's show. I didn't realize that until just now. Yeah. So, hi. I'm Margot. This is Iris with me. And we co-host the show, of course. Welcome to all our viewers. Welcome to our future listeners who are catching us in recordings and in audio casts as well. If you're new to the channel, hi. You're very welcome. So, Iris, sometimes we start our show off with something we call a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah.
For sure. And you picked a wonderful topic that talks about stuff that's not always in the mainstream view, that tells us about more. Yeah.
And I'm gonna put this link in the comments, but it was a link that a friend shared with us, and it's a video of Dr. Byrne, B-Y-R-N-E. He's the founder of perinatal medicine. And he talks about the origins of organ transplants. Now, I've always been one, when I die, take what you can use and burn the rest. That's kind of the way I've always been. And I want to put this link in. It's, but hearing him talk and knowing the stuff, because we did a show sometime last year about the Rockefeller and his foray into modern medicine. He creating modern medicine and dictating how the AMA does stuff.
He stopped all natural medicine and created all petroleum medicine and medicine schools and insurance companies and controlled U.S. Congress and for laws to support that, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. And so when it started with the, take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning, that kind of the thoughts of give medicine before you give any other treatment. He helped create that dictation. So now hearing this Dr. Byrne talk about it, it kind of it's making me rethink the organ donorship. And he's talking, there's like 2 or 3 women that are interviewing him, and they're sitting in a restaurant and they're mostly filming him, but you get a glimpse of them. They all sound sincere, and he's older. I mean, he's probably in his 70s, but he's still very clear-headed. But it starts out, he says that Harvard invented the phrase for brain dead. He said there's no real way to tell if someone is actually brain dead. He said because you don't know people can be in transition. They might, they might be able to be healed. Your body shuts down while it's healing, and in extreme cases. And he said, so to say somebody is brain dead is unfair because you don't know what they can hear, see, feel, that sort of thing. And he said, and a lot of times now they're declaring people brain dead without even doing a brain scan. And he said their focus is on like teens through their early 30s is a big area because so many people die of medical overdoses or, I'm sorry, drug overdoses. And police
No,
will,
medical overdoses is right. The number one cause of accidental death is hospital and doctor uh, malpractice. It's number
yeah,
one
well,
cause
that's
of death
true.
in the
But he
United
was saying
States.
that drug overdoses in general
Isn't
are
that
like
an interesting coincidence?
yeah.
Yeah. So
But he
please
was talking
continue.
in general. He said police they're armed with Narcan now. And the idea isn't to save the patient, it's to keep their body alive because you cannot take organs from
A cadaver.
cadaver.
What is Narcan?
Narcan is when somebody ODs like on heroin or one of those other drugs. It's like a really heavy duty adrenaline shot. It negates whatever the drug is. That's fentanyl, I think, is the big one that it
Okay.
negates. And he said so they bring them in long enough to declare them brain dead. And then you've got somebody that is very well dressed, very well mannered, reverses, Linda just said it reverses the effects of opioids. Thank you, Linda. I knew it was, yeah. And
That's what they tell us it does.
yeah,
Just saying, you
that's
know,
true.
just saying that's what they tell us it does. All right, go ahead.
And that um, people that the there's always a hospital representative that comes in very well dressed and very kind. Can I get you some coffee? I know this is a difficult time. Can we talk about organ donation? And they have they're very well trained and specific in how to address families in doing this, and they act like they're your best friend. And he said it's like a rubber stamp thing that every hospital has this person that's been trained in the same way to behave in this way and all that. And he goes into all these other things about the medical reasons, and the medical effects. And he said every time, he said, just to show you how they cannot guarantee that the person is so brain dead that they don't feel anything. They give these people that are declared brain dead, they give them a shot that numb or numb
Paralyzes, numbs.
paralyzes the body. It doesn't numb the body, it paralyzes the body.
Okay.
So that if they are in pain when they're cut open and the organs are harvested, they're not jerking. They need them to be as still as possible. He
They
said because that's one of the ways they'll react in pain when they're quote unquote brain dead, when they're really not dead. If you hurt them
they'll
in
move,
some way, like if you start and they're gonna flinch and react and stuff. And he said, so they
jump.
give them, why do they give them that shot if they're dead? If they can't feel anything. And he said, in the shot just paralyzes them, it doesn't numb them, so they still feel it. And it's like the stuff you've heard and you've wondered, and now here's this doctor laying it all out. So the link's in the discussion. See for yourself and make your own decision. And Margot, you froze. Quit freezing on me. She'll probably drop. Yep, there she goes. Sorry, gang. She'll be right back. Here she comes. I'm waiting on her to come back. Here she goes. Yay.
There he goes.
All right.
Yay.
So she's back. So yeah, so that kind of takes us to in considering
Makes you
all
think
that.
twice. So
Yeah. So look,
in my mind, the next thing I would do is start researching the credentials of Byrne, who write
BYRNE. Hmm.
BYRNE, who writes his paycheck, where does he get his
Yeah.
income from? And this is what you do anytime somebody gives you controversial information, guys. Not just now. Find out who writes their paycheck, find out where they studied and what kind of work they did, who they worked for. If they're working for BlackRock or one of the big six media, very questionable, just for an example. But
Oh,
yeah, and then once you find he's credible, that's when you start making decisions about his information for yourself. What did you,
there was
Iris? What did you think?
something else that came out this week, and it was like a news story that came out, and they were talking about it on talk radio or whatever. That there was a guy, he was being interviewed on one of the shows I was listening to, that is in the process of doing research and writing a book. But he interviewed people that worked for the FDA, that had been working for the FDA for like 30 years, and then COVID hit. And he said these people were nonpartisan. The guy who interviewed him was talking about it, and he said there was several that they were nonpartisan. They just like doing their job and making medicine safe for people and all that stuff. And he said they got to the point where the federal government was pushing to allow um, the COVID shot to be mandatory and not be just an emergency thing. And several of the people that were working on this said, we need more information. They're asking the drug companies for more information. They're telling their superiors in the government, we don't have enough information. This is not a good idea, yada, yada, yada. They all ended up basically being relieved of duties to the point where they were forced out of their jobs.
That's very telling.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So all that stuff's starting to leak out now, about, because you wondered, why did the FDA do this, and have they been paid off? Well, yeah, but the
So
ones who were there
quickly.
legitimately and had been there for 30 years and had no bug up their ass about it, they were just trying to process it the right way. And so he interviewed them, and so that's going to be interesting to see that
They
stuff
were
come out.
they were dismissed and pushed out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
So tonight's show is about liminal space, the magic space in between, and you'll see why we chose that peek behind the curtain. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. As we go through the show, so, Iris, where are we going tonight?
Well, it's like I said, liminal space. There's liminal space mentally, physically, and emotionally. It's all around us, in front of us, behind us, and it's the sort of in between where we've been and where we're going. It can be a creative space, inspiring. Some people think it's a little frightening and weird. It might be tedious because it's like I'm ready to move and I don't know what to do, and it can be very magical, and it can happen all at once. So how you use it, how you feel it, and how you propel to it and from it can actually be life changing. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And where did that? There it is. I had to find it.
Absolutely. That's an excellent description summary for the show. Thank you for writing that.
Oh, sure. It
Yeah,
just came to me. I can't take a lot of credit for it. It was just
it
like,
came to
what am I going to
you.
write about this? And there it went.
Very, very good. So, some of the initial points that you make in that opening is the fact that liminal space is more than just a physical thing. Yeah, it can be mental, emotional, time related, abstract, as well as concrete. And you and I had some fun coming up with lists of examples of things that either are liminal space or contain liminal space. But before that, it behooves us to talk about what is liminal space and what can we do with it that's so freaking magical and so freaking powerful. Where can you go with that? And so, for starters, let's start there. Iris, can you tell us? I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. What is your definition of liminal space?
What I just read. No.
A little bit of a cheat sheet there. Absolutely.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, expound on that, please.
It literally is the equivalent to a doorway, and it literally is a doorway is a literal liminal space. But we have so many doors or windows in our life, both figuratively and literally, that bring us from one point to the next. And so anytime we're in transition, we're in that liminal space. So, when you're waking up, when you're coming out of your slumber and waking up to start your day, that's a liminal space. So, what do you do with that? Here's where what you're coming out of and what you're going into can affect what you do with that liminal space. Because there's times where I'm in that liminal space where I've slept good and I've got exciting things happening for the day, and I'm ready. As soon as I realize I'm ready to wake up, it's like, yes, I've got a lot to do. And then there's times where I just want to pull the friggin' sheet over my head. Before I haven't even, I've just barely opened my eye and I'm like, oh God, no. Or the mornings where it's too cold and it's like, no, I'm not coming out of this space. you know, those that kind of and if you think about all the different places that happens in your life, you know
Transitional spots, just transitional places. Yeah.
yeah, there when I take my dog's empty bowl and go for where I keep her food, and she's dancing in that liminal space. I can't wait till my bowl is full, and she's stomping on my feet in the process, and I was like, chill, dog, chill. Yeah.
She's doing the liminal dance. It's not time to
Yeah.
chill. Yeah. But,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Other beings besides humans are aware of liminal space for sure, and we're gonna probably touch on that several times. I like your definition. I thought it was very clear and it was very vivid. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, the doorway yeah, that's a real clear analogy that simply works across lots of platforms, material and abstract. Um, a liminal space, in my terms, is another way of defining it is a PowerPoint. It's a place of extreme creation, extreme power, better said, in a place of extreme potential, where almost anything can, dare I say, everything can start, end, or be both. Because as we know, and we talked about this before the show, anything that ends or stops or dies or ceases to do something is the beginning of something else,
Yes.
even if that's in the beginning of a quiet time where nothing much happens. That's also a beginning of another era, another period of events. So for me,
Oh,
yeah,
I just thought of one. If have you ever been into a book and you're reading that book and you're reading a page and you turn the page before you
turning
start reading
pages
again?
is liminal. Yeah,
Turning
we're
pages is
making a
limited.
list. Turning
Yeah.
pages. Turning pages. We ended up making a huge long list.
Oh wow.
All kinds of notes. Yep.
And as
Turning
y'all are
pages.
listening, if you have ideas, as you listen to some of the ones we're giving, we welcome you to participate. Yeah.
Yeah. As you catch on to what is liminal space, please type in what you think is an example of liminal space, because we'd love to discuss. Because every now and then it gets really abstract, and it takes a little bit of discussion. And I can see myself on the camera looking at it. There's a liminal space that we use on a regular basis. The gap between our hands when we close them. We don't
Hmm.
always
Oh, you froze.
completely close
There
them.
you go.
There's always a little bit of,
I can hear you, but you're still froze. And I think she's gonna disappear again. Sorry, guys. Um, got okay. Here she comes. Come on. There you go.
2, 1.
Yay.
But yeah, there's liminal space, and a lot of belief systems have practices that involve doing specific things with this space in between your hands. Sometimes it's called a heart space or whatever. But yeah, whenever we put our hands together, that automatically makes a little liminal space right there in front of you.
Linda says Margot is in liminal space. Yeah, every time she disappears in that moment from when she appears in the little staging area that I have in my program, as I'm waiting for her, she pops up, and the point before putting her there and up on screen, that's you're liminally moving.
Give Linda the silent bell treatment. That was brilliant, Linda. Yes, that's an excellent example. Guys, please feel free to chime in with your own examples of what can be liminal space.
Angela says
Angela
every new
says,
beginning comes from some other beginning's end. From the song Closing Time by, I believe, Semisonic. Yes, yes.
yes, yes, absolutely. This is not a unique concept. It's not a new one, and it's been around for thousands of years.
I just think
So,
what gets me about it is I think is a lot of people don't realize the power in those moments. We mourn ends and
thank
don't
you.
recognize the upcoming beginnings, the new opportunities, and we don't,
The
yeah,
potentials
and
is
we don't
infinite.
celebrate endings. Have you noticed that?
Very rarely, yeah, in this culture, it's rare. That it does happen, like graduations.
Yeah, but
That's so
graduation is also a launch to a new beginning. So people recognize, oh, you've graduated, you're done, you're going on with your life, yay. Where, you've accomplished all this work. And so there's something for saying that you've earned a degree or whatever at the time. But it's, even in the graduation ceremony where they have you move the tassels, not everybody does it anymore, but there used to be a ceremony of switching the tassels. That was from one side to the other. You were making a transition. It's never been seen as or it's not as celebrated as an end. That
well, yeah, and that's they're slow on the uptake on ending things. Our culture teaches us to be afraid of death and closure, so we don't seek closure. So we live in a constant state of unfinished anxiety that's low level, and yet another way to screw with us as a culture to keep us anxious and sick and distracted and worried. All right, yeah, take away all their closures. Yeah, absolutely. But switching back to liminal space, the power that you can get out of a liminal space, exactly what is it? What's going on? Why do we think this is such a potential? Essentially, the energy that exists, and the energy can be time, it can be place, it can be emotional, it could be metaphysical, it can be physical, it can be all kinds of labels. But whatever energy is existing in that space can, in its liminal state, and that's Limin as in Nancy AL, if you want to pop. Well, not we, well, you had it in the opening
yeah.
meme. Yeah. Energy that's in that liminal space can, for lack of a better word, but I like this one, transmogrify. It can morph.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I don't
it,
have. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe let's see. Is that
see
a
if you can
dollar
blow it up.
word?
It can
Is that
change, it can transform. You can use all these metamorphic. There you go.
that's for her dollar word?
That's my big dollar word. It can change and transform any situation into something better, or at least moving forward into something else, leaving the old behind.
Oh, I would
Okay.
challenge the moving forward too.
What would you like to, how would you characterize that instead?
It might have been what you just said, like transmodification or something like that. Trans
Transmogrify.
yeah, transmogrify. It's transcendence. It's trans Vision.
transcending, and transcendence is another word that fits in liminal space. All these words are other words for liminal space, except for liminal space actually has a physicality to it, till sometimes it actually has a material component to it. But this also applies in abstract um, situations, ideas as well.
One of those
Iris,
could be. I was thinking uh, when in especially in North Carolina, other laws can be different in other places. But if somebody's in the process of getting a divorce, you're married, you have to spend a year separated and then get a divorce. That year of separation is liminal space
social
because you're
liminal
going from
space,
being married to
personal
not.
liminal space.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're separated. What are you, married, divorced? No, I'm separated. No, I'm liminal.
Yeah.
I'm in a liminal. You made me think of something else you talked about in the beginning, and I'm glad I wrote it down. You said humans are surrounded by doors and transitions and windows and openings to go through and change where they are. Humans are surrounded by that all the time. And what popped in my head hmm, is there a situation where there are no doors or windows or portals of any sort? Portals is another word we haven't mentioned yet. Portals are not around that a living being has to deal with? Yes. When chicks are inside of eggs, they have no door, but eventually they have to create a liminal space and pop a crack in it. The crack becomes the liminal space. So the chick actually creates a liminal space as it moves from being a little glob of goo, protein goo, and solidifies into being a little birdie with bones and feathers and wings and skin.
Which also makes me think a lot of times humans feel stuck and you're never truly stuck because you can
Stuck.
create your own liminal space to transition.
The second you're stuck, that means you're 100% in liminal space, which means you are completely in power.
Yeah.
But we're not taught to understand that. Yeah. A feeling being stuck means you're overwhelmed with options. That means you
Mm.
actually are overwhelmed. You're so overwhelmed, you can't even perceive them yet, which is where friends come in, shine some lights on some of these things for you. But what are some, let's go ahead and jump on that boat too, Iris. Or jump on that track. What are some examples that you enjoyed that we ran across that
Yeah.
illustrate a liminal space?
I'll show you the pictures I found in that article. That was a good one.
Please do. That was
Let
awesome.
me,
Guys,
yeah.
please feel free to write your ideas for what you think a liminal space might be. What would represent a liminal space while we go in the
Okay. So this,
comments?
yeah, and this was demilked.com/strange dash liminal dash spaces, if anybody wants to look at that. And the first picture is a building next to the hotel. The person who took this picture of a building while he was staying in a hotel, and it's just phenomenal to see all
Hundreds and
the
hundreds
yeah
of balconies,
yeah
or pretty much balconies. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. Um,
People pay extra to go stand in the liminal space out on their balcony.
yes,
And it's the liminal space between the room and the open air out in front of the building. Yeah. That's the
yeah,
liminal space. Yeah. Balconies and porches are liminal space. They're the space between the house and the yard. Yeah. Fences.
yeah.
Yes.
The fence, and then the space between the ground and the sky, where in the storm and the non-storm. You got several going on.
Storms. Storms are
Yeah,
liminal space between high pressure fronts and low pressure fronts.
yeah.
Storms are what happen in between them. Good one, I.
And
Yeah.
I like this one. I mean, the cloud line follows the power lines perfectly. It looks like the picture's dividing in
Yeah.
half, but it's not. And then by coincidence, nobody was on the street when the guy took this picture. So it was like you've got a long road and then the space between the clouds and the sky. So that was kind of interesting. And this is just before the clouds are going to cover the gap between the mountains. And it's like you can see far below. And then the road itself is liminal in the snow.
Hmm.
Um, so then abandoned subways in Paris are being repurposed as swimming pools.
And subway tunnels are liminal space. They take you from one place to another. They are an
And
in
water,
between space.
yeah. And water is liminal.
Water. Oh,
Um,
describe the water thing. That was cool. How does water qualify to be liminal space? Your explanation of that was awesome.
oh God. Well, what I like about water is, if you fill a bowl with water and you look through the water to the bowl, that water is liminal from the bottom of the bowl to to you,
To the surface of the water.
right, or
Yeah.
to the surface of the water. And like if you ever sat in a bathtub and like I don't know, I've done it just goofing around like I'll bring my leg up to the surface and then bring it back down under the water, and it's like moving through the water, and it's like I'm out of the water, I'm in the water, I'm out of the water, I'm in the water, yeah, and noticing how my leg or arm or hand or whatever transitions and looks different under the water versus when it comes out of the water.
Yes.
And so all
Yes.
of that, the water is just a big liminal space to do all that really cool stuff with.
Water creates a liminal space by just being there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and think about what it does for plants. If you have a dried plant and you give
Mm,
it water, it transitions.
absolutely. It's a catalyst for change for the plant. Now this is a good one. A
Yeah,
tunnel.
it's a tunnel, but it's a blocked tunnel. But it
I
still
like
carves
that it was
out the
like
space between the road and the mountain. If you want to
absolutely
get on the other side of the mountain, you're going to have to go up.
up and around mountaintops. Mountaintops are liminal space between earth and sky. What else? The
This
hallway,
is in a movie theater, that hallway that leads to multiple doorways.
doorways, hallways, staircases, and windows. Those
Yeah.
are stairs and staircases. They're all liminal spaces.
And look at all these windows, and only one is lit in these buildings, which is really kind of interesting. Yeah, don't know where that is. And here's a courtyard. I mean, you've got a liminal space in that it's leading to two doors. Which way are you going to go?
Mm,
Then the ground and the sky, or the building in the sky.
yeah.
This one is beautiful with the road and just it's a liminal space going from here to wherever it happens to end. Uh, this is beautiful liminal space. Talk about how trees are liminal space, Margot. You were explaining that to me. I liked it. Or did you freeze again? Ah, dang it! I think she got bumped again. Yes, she did. Here we go. Okay, tell us about trees, Margot.
Yes. Trees are literally the one of the most perfect representations of what is liminal space. Trees are liminal space or liminal energy. They are they are both rooted in the earth and they are literally rooted in the air. We call them branches and leaves. And they hold and connect those two magical spaces, earth and air, all by themselves, therefore making them as a transitional thing, touching both. They are in between. Trees are magical, limb
Hmm.
space. And then, Iris, you had a beautiful picture of trees with liminal space between the trees?
Yeah, this one down here.
The next one. Guys, now you know why it is called so many fairy tales are called to happen in a magical forest. Look at all that liminal space between each branch, between each trunk, from the sky to the earth. In other words, up, down, left, right, all three dimensions.
Yeah, and not
The
even just between the rows of trees, but between the trees in the rows.
Exactly. Exactly. Trees are the epitome of liminal space in every aspect. Thank you for coming to that one.
Yeah. And this one is a bingo hall. And right now it's liminal space waiting for butts in those seats and people to fill it. And
And all the aisleways between the seats
yes.
where people walk. Yes.
And then this was an empty beach. The first reaction is, oh, that's a cemetery. No, it's all the beach umbrellas have been collapsed. That
Guys, this is one of the reasons we do marriages and weddings on the beach. The beach is the epitome of liminal space between ocean and earth and sky. Beaches are like trees. Beaches are all liminal space. Another version of that is fishing piers that go out over the water. They are liminal space too. They hold you up in between water, sky, and earth. Both of those items, beaches and piers.
And you know,
Uh,
sand in itself is almost like water because it shifts and moves all the time. And if you go to the beach and you try to stand in one place in the sand, it's impossible.
you're right. It keeps shifting and moving, which keeps you constantly in liminal space.
Yes.
Now, along the
And
same line, the times, especially on the beach, if you are on the beach in liminal space in the time of sunrise or sunset, you're
mm,
also in a liminal time, which happens twice a day, every day at least. Which also brings us to you are in liminal space when you wake up between sleeping and awake. Also, when you are going to sleep. And Iris, that is called what? What kind of brain wave?
theta brainwave.
Theta brainwave. And what can we do in theta brainwave, you theta practitioner, you?
Yeah. Well, that's when we can transition between realms or dimensions or planes, um, and then we can do better healings and make connections and all that stuff in that theta brainwave.
We're extremely empowered and flexible,
Yes,
correct?
yes,
Awesome. Yay, yay, yay. Now, I love this next picture that's mirrors.
yeah. I mean, they got it just right where it's a mirror, a reflection of a mirror reflecting in each other, and that's a big liminal space.
Mirrors,
Lots of
yeah. And if you get abstract on that one even further, there are popular theories that mirrors and reflections, also on water, another liminal object, that mirrors and water are the reflections are actually other dimensions that
mm-hmm.
we're temporarily seeing into. And if that's the case, if that holds true, think Iris, we were talking about it earlier. Alice through the Looking Glass, is that the name
Yeah,
of it?
yeah.
Yeah,
Alice in Wonderland, Alice through the
Alice in
Looking
Wonder.
Glass.
Where she did step through a mirror, and you see that a lot in sci-fi. Hint, hint.
Yeah, there's a
Called
current.
called a reveal.
Yeah, there's a current movie. I just saw it in one of my streams.
Mm.
That is about the synopsis is a girl switches places with her reflection in the mirror, and
Ooh,
there's a
another
whole
Freaky
movie on it.
Friday, another version
Yeah.
of Freaky Friday movies. Absolutely. Well, while they're
And then I
switching, it's a
love
liminal
this with the beach. This is the Nambia Desert where it meets the ocean.
ocean. That's
And isn't that
beautiful.
gorgeous? I mean, it
That
just
is epic.
so orange.
And it must be, I wonder if that's a lot of iron in the soil.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Must be. This is after a good downpour, there's water all over the pavement, and so you've got the gas station, the real gas station on top and the reflection on the bottom, and it's absolutely clear.
Ooh, you know what? You just reminded me. Remember, movies tell us a lot about what is truth. Do you guys remember BFG, the animated movie, The Big Friendly Giant?
Mm-mm.
In the animated movie, it's a computer animated movie. A little orphan girl befriends a friendly giant, and they go be heroes. Well, during part of the plot, he takes her to his magical places because his job in the world is to affect people's dreams and help them be happy and be better people because of their dreams. And he takes her to his magical place where he gathers his tools, so to speak, for that. They kind of look like fireflies. And to do that, he takes her to the edge of a lake and they jump into the water and land on the shore in the reflection. And then the whole camera flips over. And now they are in an alternative universe because they
Mm.
jumped through the reflection of the water. They jumped into the lake, they jumped into
Ah,
the reflection. If the reflection's not there, it doesn't work, is the theory. So
ah.
they, yeah. So I just remember that it's called BFG, Big Friendly Giant. It's a
Hmm.
wonderful, feel good, well done British film. It's really cute. It's about 10 plus years old. Yeah,
Cool.
BFG.
Uh,
Yeah,
when we get through with these pictures, I've got an SO joke for y'all. So keep that in mind. This is an SO station, and it just remind me I got to tell you this joke. Okay.
SOS.
Uh,
Yosh
this is a long exposure of the wind turbines. So because it was a long exposure, you can't see the blades
blades.
spinning, which, you think about the space between the blades and it's like
Now it
it's
shows
there, but
up,
it's not there. Yeah.
and now it shows up, and it even holds a shadow of the
Yeah.
pole. You can even see the pole's shadow on the blades, even though the blades are not quite there, but they are,
Yeah.
but they aren't. That's brilliant. They are, but they aren't. That is
Uh-huh.
another description of liminal space.
And
The
then
moon,
this one is street lights, but look how it forms a path and it's created a way,
like, like the moon is launching into
Yeah.
another one. And you know what? We were talking about while we're touching on space, novas and pulsars, the death of a star, the beginning of a star, novas and pulsars, they are liminal objects as well. Yeah, the corona of the sun is a liminal object, talking about outer space things
Yeah.
relative to liminals. Yeah.
And this last one, you've got the path, and we can't tell. It's an archway of some sort, and some sort of thing with ivy on it. But then behind it's a cloud, so we don't know exactly what this is. But the path is the liminal space. The space between the earth and the sky is liminal. So that's the only
And you
reason
know
I'm.
what? It's also liminal between the grass on the left and the grass on the right. The road is the space between the two meadows as
Ah,
well.
cool. Well,
Yeah.
so real quick, my SO joke. I got to tell you because it's an old joke and it's really cute. Um, there was a swarm of bees flying flying around, and one of them, yeah, they're all flying, and one says, "I gotta go to the bathroom." There's a shell station. It goes to the shell station, and then it comes back and it joins the rest of the swarm. And they go on, and they're going further, 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 further. And the next one sees the Gulf station. Is go, I'm going to go over there. It goes, and it comes back. One sees an Esso station, and it goes to the Esso station. Do you know what that proves?
What? I've never
There's
heard
an
of
SOB in every crowd.
There's an SOB in every crowd. Oh, silent bell. Got to make sure silent bell. Thank you. That was cute. I've never heard that one before.
You
So
can't tell it that much because there's no Esso stations anymore. But since we saw the picture, that's what.
it helps. It helps. So we were talking about roads, and that brought me to some of the other things we wrote down when we were prepping for the show. State lines, international lines, county lines, national lines, Canada
Ever been
borders.
to Carowinds? In
Yes,
Carowinds, the state line is drawn right through the
right,
park, and we used to
right
love to sit
through
there
it.
and jump back and forth.
A lot of people know about Four Corners out in the Midwest, where four
Mm,
states are touching each other on one point. That, guys, all those are PowerPoints of extreme power. Stand there and get married. Stand there and do ritual.
yeah,
Boom! It'll happen. It'd be really, really amazing. Um, what else is out there that's
there.
geographical? Oh, I love this painting. Yeah.
Yeah, talk about liminal space. It's everywhere.
Yes. The moment that he releases and then he will catch. And then also the clouds around Earth and then infinite space up above, upper atmosphere. That's all liminal space. Gee, Iris, I wonder why all the UFOs hang out up there. There's a lot of power up there, guys. Why do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Why do you think the International Space Station stays there? There's a whole lot that they're still not telling us that we'll know. We will know. Intersections, road intersections where you stop and have to make a choice, right? Left, straight, or go back. It's actually a four-way liminal space.
So it says deep thought, the space between your first breath and your last breath. Yay!
Yay! Yes, your whole life is a liminal space. Thank you, Angela. That is perfect. The moment you're born is a liminal space. The moment you die, or the process of dying, or the process of being born, which is usually more than a few seconds, one way or the other. Yes. And then, of course, a whole lifetime. Teenagers are socially liminal space. They're not kids and they're not adults. Childhood takes you out of babyhood into adulthood or into teen years. Those are also liminal years that you got liminal inside of liminal, starting with what Angela pointed out. Yeah.
Here's another one. I love this. From when you don't know something to while you're learning and then knowing something. And in that process between not knowing and knowing something, it's interesting. This drawing, it has a bunch of little circles and it shows it's the liminal space. It looks almost like your brain, you
It
know?
does.
But it is that it can be just a second between not knowing and not knowing,
Split
or it
second.
can actually be months of learning something. But that time is that liminal space between knowing and not knowing, which I thought was kind of cool.
I think, yeah, another good example that actually, yeah, along that line, that also incorporates what Angela just wrote, is sometimes we don't know something as a youth, and then decades later, we suddenly realize we know it. And we spend all that time learning, acquiring, figuring out that piece of fact of life somewhere along the line. Absolutely. Birthdays. The day of your birthday later on, not just the day you were born. The day you turn 12.
That's why it's so special.
It's why it's special. You turn 18, you turn 21, you turn 50, you turn all those, you turn 6 and go to school, whatever. Yes, birthdays are
And the new
big.
year.
New
That's
Year's Day is huge. Um, what was anniversaries?
yeah.
Yeah, one year stops, another year starts. Um,
Something I want to talk about though is, and we've sort of hit on it. We
mm,
know these can be that liminal space is very powerful. And to me, the power comes from recognizing that the power is there. It's
it doesn't work unless you know it's there.
yeah, and because I can see some people may be going, well, okay, it's a more powerful liminal gives me lots of power, but how do I use that power? How do I access that power? But I think a lot of it is just knowing that the power's there. Because if you know it, you all of a sudden you can feel it. You bring it in, but can you add anything to that?
Yes, I can. And I'm glad you brought that up. When I first started learning about this liminal space concept, roughly 20 years ago, maybe about 22 years ago, the first example that came to my mind, because while I was learning and talking about it, me and this person were walking through a building and we got on an elevator. And I went, oh, this is a liminal space between floors. And actually, the Japanese symbol for liminal space is also the symbol for elevator.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And it occurred to me, whew, and so riding in an elevator from that moment on, anytime I've been on an elevator, escalators count, guys, they're the same thing. The experience of stepping onto an escalator or an elevator for me, or even a people mover at the airport, is yeah. It's like getting a hit of caffeine or something. If
Yeah,
you wanted to
yeah.
give it a physical thing. And sometimes it's subtle, but it's definitely a time for a deep breath and claim it mentally, energetically, talk in your head, or just know your body and your body's energies are absorbing this power that you are freely entitled to. What Iris just said, awareness. Will proactively step into this is mine and it's always here. Get dawn, dusk, stairways, elevators, hallways, front porches, back porches. And we've got more that are even funnier that have to do with your physical, biological body. You've got liminals in there too. Having awareness of these puppies is where you can literally experience the power of that liminal space and start claiming it, inhale it if you'd like. Take a bite, make like a dragon,
Yeah.
and just snap it up. However,
Well, and then also,
you like to
it,
spiritually consume. Yeah.
yeah. And so that also is good advice for people who, when you feel like you're at a place where there's an ending and you're kind of, it could be somebody's died, or it could be a job ending, or it could be change in home or something like that. And you're thinking, God, this is just such a drag. Instead, if you recognize, no, this is liminal,
Liminal space and
then
time. Yeah.
it's going to empower you more to continue with the next step. And so I thought that was important. Kind of tell people what to do with this now that they know.
I thought of another example. Can you think of a famous incident that involves an escalator? It affects U.S. history for the rest of time.
The when Trump came down?
When the Orange
No.
Man came down. When the Orange Man came down the golden escalator, everything changed. The whole timeline changed. Why the escalator? Why don't you just walk out on a stage like everybody else and grab the microphone? A lot of power in that liminal space. And he and his crew and his staff and his handlers know that. Okay, just
Yeah.
to be clear. Um, cool. All right, so we thought of some other really cool examples that are definitely in between spaces, but you might not think of them as liminal, except for here in this conversation. Halftime during sporting events.
Super Bowl's coming up, folks. Look at what they do with all the power during halftime. Oh, I can still hear you, but she's lost it. Yeah. Okay. So she'll be back. Um. Oh, there she comes. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, no, she said it's not coming. There you come. Here you go, Margot.
Come on. Gimme.
She's having issues. Can you see us?
Back. I will
Yeah.
when I bring you back up on my screen. Yes. My
Okay.
blue,
Oh,
my Bluetooth, which is internet connected, is popping in and out. Sorry about that. Um, Last thing I said was halftime at sporting events.
Yeah, and I said, look at what they do at the Super Bowl with their halftime.
And look what else they do behind the scenes that you don't realize you're looking at during halftime at Super Bowl, because that's a power play to do things at halftime. Um, just to put it mildly. All vehicles are liminal space. You go in them, you get in, bicycle, a car, a train, an airplane, to go somewhere else. Iris, what did you say about in airplanes another liminal experience, particularly on?
Oh, the landing and takeoff. Because there is something about when a plane gets ready to land, just that time right before it makes contact with the pavement. And it's like you just get also, and then all of a sudden, dunk, and it hits, and it's like, whoa.
There's a release in the takeoff as well. Yeah, but
Yeah.
landing, you feel it more.
Yeah,
Landing, you
because
feel it more.
you'll roll down the thing, and then all of a sudden you feel this lift, and it's weird because you think I'm still in the seat in the plane. Why do I feel this woof lift and the touching of the ground? And it's really funky.
It's so much bigger than your body. You feel the whole airplane responding to touching the ground again. You guys, you're feeling the whole airplane and everyone in it experiencing that fraction of microfraction of liminal space just as it contacts the earth. That tiny little microscopic liminal space right on top of the pavement where the airplane tires are touching. The smaller the liminal space, by the way, the more intense it is. It's not a lesser thing,
Mm.
it's actually more intense. I forgot to throw that out there. Now,
Oh, cool.
when we were talking about the airplane thing, we were talking about a related sensation when performers and actors are about to go on stage or the spotlight curtain is about to go up, they feel really amped up. Some love it, some hate it. And we talked about what are some words for that. And you came up with a really good term for it. Do you remember what it was?
Anticipation is one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Anticipation means you're about something is about to happen. For those of you that enjoy thrillers or horror movies or horror stories and thriller shows, circuses and performances like that, anticipation is where the show designers are grabbing you emotionally and energetically as an audience, as a viewer. Anticipation is where the money is at
Mm-hmm.
in creating, yeah, in creating physical performances that capture and keep the audience going. Anticipation is liminal space. Iris, what are some other examples that jump to your mind?
I think
You gave a good example that has to do with
oh, binoculars and telescopes and things like that, because I
and
love
also
the
microscopes.
concept that you're sitting, you're sitting or standing wherever, and you're looking at something far in the distance, and you pick up these magnifiers that suddenly bring whatever's far away to you, and so they act as liminal space to connect you with something that's further away. And that transition, it's creating movement, literally
It's
bringing it
like
closer.
water.
Yeah.
It's like water. Water creates liminal space. Yeah, your binoculars, your microscope that you also mentioned, those are all telescopes.
Yeah.
They all create liminal space. Yes, absolutely. I thought that was brilliant. And then you brought up one that had to do with flame and
Oh
striking,
yeah.
the act of striking as well. Yeah.
Because I was thinking about the candle and the flame, and it's the flame is kind of connecting the source of the burning to the air. You need air and you need something to burn to make the flame. Those two things have to come together. So the flame is kind of a result of that, but and it's also like when people meditate, you can meditate with flame. and it can carry you into a liminal space. So it's liminal to me. The fact that it can carry that does it. But also the moment that you're trying to light a match, and that from the strike to the point where it ignites is liminal space.
That's a
And it
safe.
kind of, when you can hear that snap, I love it,
Yes, and that's a sacred process to create fire that way. Fire!
I have fire.
I have created fire. Tom Hanks. Erase, cancel, delete. But yes,
Yeah.
that was a good movie. You mentioned buds and seeds.
Yes.
What
That
kind of buds and seeds?
that's a whole nother liminal space if you're smoking them. But
Yes, it is.
I was thinking like flower buds, and they turn into flowers or seeds that sprout, and that liminal space in between is just awesome.
It's a liminal space for
Um,
the plant.
yeah.
We mentioned trees before. This is also, yeah, a secondary. Trees have buds. They have seeds as well. So they're experiencing liminal space yet again. The kings of liminal space is a tree. It's awesome. We also talked about, you mentioned before, graduation, but also coronations.
Coronations.
Right in the middle of a coronation, you're not exactly king or queen yet, and you're not exactly an apprentice or 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 prince or princess like you used to be either.
Yeah.
During those
It's that transitory time.
hours, apprentices,
The
people who
aisle
are in
that a
apprentice
bride
mode,
walks on to become a wife.
aisles are quintessential liminal space. That's why we recommend using the aisle down the beach. It's even better. It doubles up on you for the power. It's really awesome. You mentioned another good one, class change time.
Yes. It's funny because when, especially in high schools and all, when that bell rings at the end of class, it creates all this energy and chaos where the students fill the hallways and move and all it. Okay, so they're in hallways, that's liminal space. The time that they're moving is liminal space.
Yep.
The movement from one location to another is liminal space. It's just so. Is it any wonder that there's a flurry of energy at those moments?
It's a veritable lobster pot boil out in the
Yeah.
hallways. It's always chaos, noisy as hell, shit flying everywhere, people flying everywhere. Yeah, you guys went to school. Yeah, cool stuff happens, but it's chaos. Yeah, during those
Yeah.
4 to 10 minutes, depending on your school. Um, Another one we came up with times and places was in spiritual terms, specifically more Catholic, purgatory is considered a liminal space. If you are of the belief system that they have not told us everything truthful about what actually happens, they being organized religion, if organized religion hasn't told us everything, there might be a whole lot more to purgatory if you look at it in the light of it is liminal space. It's in between. It's not one thing or the other. There's probably some serious power going on there that they don't want us to know about. Same reason that they shut us down for knowing anything. If it might empower you, they will limit your access to that knowledge or cut it off altogether. Purgatory may not be everything we think it is. Well, now,
Yeah.
Iris, it popped in my head, this particular building structure popped in my head, and I asked you what liminal can you get out of that? Pyramids. I was thinking about powerful places. Pyramids. Can you explain for our listeners your lovely explanation for?
Well, there has been some people. One thing is that the shape itself creates that arrow to the sky. That's one thing. But the other thing is that there are theories. I don't know if it's still a theory or if they're trying to prove or they're in the process of proving that what you see above is also below. That there's just as much under a pyramid as there is above a pyramid.
Yeah. Oh, bingo.
So
Yeah.
so they reflect themselves, and you've got that
Mm,
liminal space where they meet.
yeah, they reflect each other. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I catch on
Yeah.
better. For some reason, it clicked in better. You thought of another one, which was really cool, which was anesthesia.
Mm. They put you in a liminal space, and and it happens fast, but there's that moment between it's like going to sleep, but it's not. They always say, count backwards to 10, and I go 10, 9. But still, it's like you can just feel the passage. It's like
You're you're slipping it away from something and towards something much more vacuous.
yeah.
Plain. I was thinking about social. I got a little tiny note to the side here beside my anesthesia. Don't know why. Um, a social transition besides graduations and coronations, bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs in the Jewish tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
It's
a celebration that you become a man, you become a woman at age
it's a
12.
rite of passage.
It's a rite of passage. Passage being your keyword, it's a rite of liminal space.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So another cool one that we thought about was strobe lights, those micro fraction of light on, light off, light on, light off. That's a whole series of liminal spaces. And if you are somebody who's familiar with seizures, you know what strobe lights do to a human, can do to a human brain. But you're visually watching liminal space appear and reappear. Iris, what was the social occasion that strobe lights?
Discos and rave parties.
Some shit goes down during the dancing and strobe lighting, doesn't it?
Yes.
If uh, you can see it in movies, or you can remember it from your past life experiences. So
Yeah.
the
So I
last,
think all of these are good ideas, and to let we're gonna have to wrap this up, but to let people think about next time when you're going through something, that you're going through something, and how you can be empowered, or empower yourself more with the knowledge that it's just a transition. It's not necessarily an ending or a beginning, but a
or
transition
and it's not
instead.
even a dead space. Not
Yeah.
even. Yeah. Halfway through the show,
Um,
I promised you I would throw out some anatomical, biological liminal
oh yeah.
spaces that you have in your body all over the place. A big one, and Dale and Jeannie and Stacy know this one very well. The top and the bottom of a deep breath.
Mm.
When you hold that breath, when you blow out and hold it. Both those are both very powerful liminal spaces. Cell walls, the space between that cell and the next cell. Maintaining your cell wall health is crucial for all types of maladies and wellness paths. Your optic nerve. Iris, how did you describe that one? When your optic
Well,
nerve
it's from
touches
where
your brain?
from where the right where the image is taken in through the eye and goes back to the retina, and it's like when the where the nerve meets the brain and it changes it into an image.
From being a blob of light to a specific known entity
Yeah.
that your brain interprets. I love that. I think that was brilliant. Um, you came up with a stove. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not biological. Stoves, ovens, freezers, and microwaves are all liminal space. But you
Think about
also
the
came,
changes that occur. Yeah.
yeah, the changes that they are a place that something transforms and comes out different. And then we
Honey, we are
thought of,
really running late. We're gonna have to cut our list short.
actually, that's good because I had one. We had actually had two left. Your skin is a liminal space, and your genitalia are a general, especially in women, birth canal,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially. Yep, yep, yep.
So,
You could dig into that one and have all kinds of fun with it. But that's it.
okay.
That's what we came
Yeah.
up with. Yeah.
Want to remind everybody, Heal the Healer Summer Weekend, March 21st through the 24th. Get your registration in pronto, people. It's like 6 weeks away or 7 weeks away. It's coming
Yes.
fast. And so we want to know that you're going to be there. Give us
Drop a line.
registration, go to my website, iriscarter.com, and you'll see the information there.
Heal the healer.
Yeah. And next month, we are into February next week. We're going to talk about mental health and energy healing and how mental health, a lot of people look at mental health differently, but how energy healing can apply to mental health issues. So we're going to cover that. February 14th, we're going to talk about psychometry and attachments. You know, people get antiques and there's something attached to it. People can feel things and get readings off of it. So we're going to talk about
photographs. Yep. Paper photographs.
Yeah.
All that. Psychometry. Yeah.
Yeah. And then on February 21st, Katie Costa, the weather shaman, is going to join us. And she's also going to be one of our speakers at the Heal the Healer conference. So she's going to talk about that on February 21st. And then on the 28th, we'll bring in psychic readings.
Of course.
So, yeah. And you'll find that on our Facebook page if you want to follow that along. And yeah,
like, share, subscribe, guys. Like, share, subscribe. Click that button.
Yes, and register now for Heal the Healer. We want you to get that in there and spread the word.
Hang out with us live. Find out what we say when we're not on the air. Woo!
Yeah, get that behind the scenes discussion. But you know, share it with people. Find a friend. Sign up now, and help us get the word out. We appreciate it and appreciate you coming in. So till next week, we love you. Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Thank you for joining the Eyes of Indigo with Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this podcast. Music is Arcadia by Kevin MacLeod. Find us at facebook.com/Eyes of Indigo, on YouTube under @Iris Carter Enterprises, and on various podcast aggregators. Copyright 2023 by Iris Carter and Margot Ross Sears.